This episode today is about a really big subject, a very important subject to me and to a lot of you guys, and that is, well, the problem with speakers. Pretty much all speakers, but today we're going to be talking about, let's say, audiophile speakers, high-end speakers, really good speakers, a lot of the speakers that I cover here on the channel. And the problem is, well, that they all fail miserably at their job of reproducing the sound of live music. Yes, they all do. There's no doubt about it. Never there's even a glimpse of saying, yes, that sounds exactly like. Well, you can fool yourself into thinking that, but then when you step back and you go, no, they can't. They really can't. So it's not just the sound of a rock band or an orchestra or something. No, they can't reproduce the sound of a human voice. When I say reproduce it, I mean that you can't tell the difference between the actual voice of a human speaking or singing and the sound coming out of a speaker, or an acoustic guitar, or the ringing of a bell. No speaker I've ever heard could do that 100% convincingly. Yeah, that's where we begin today, is with that idea, that they're all imperfect devices, and yet some of us are striving for perfection, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't be striving for it. I'm just saying, well, what is the purpose of all of this? The purpose of owning a hi-fi is, yeah, you know it, is to enjoy music. Absolutely. And the great thing is that even a very humble hi-fi can give you great satisfaction. I mean, when my very first hi-fi that I bought when I was about 15 years old, you know, with really crappy speakers and a terrible garage turntable and a little crap box of an amplifier, solid state amplifier, it sounded awful. I mean, objectively, it wasn't very good, but it did absolutely succeed in giving me immense pleasure because I was connecting in a different way emotionally with the music that I loved. And that was huge for me. And that's what set me on this course pretty much for the rest of my life. Well, right up to now, right up to me talking to you about this subject. So yes, all speakers fail. And this quest for perfection and stuff, I don't think that's what we should be doing. That's kind of the subtext of all this, is to say, what are we here for? We're here for pleasure. We want more and more, I do, want more and more pleasure from my hi-fi. And I've come to understand that has nothing, I've always known that it's not about making it perfect. It's about chasing connection with the music that I love. That's what this is for. But I just want to go down a little side alley here. Oh, yes, there will be an Audiophiliac viewer system of the day. And in case you've never got to the end of one of these videos, this channel is supported through the kind generosity of my patrons. So the address is on the screen right now if that piques your interest. But anyway, yes, there's different kinds of audiophiles. There are the audiophiles that are chasing the gear and care more about the gear than the music itself. That's one type. Then there's the opposite of that side. There's the kind that just crave the music and the hi-fi is not as important. They're looking for satisfaction from music. Hi-fi is just, you know, a way to get there. But there's a third type of audiophile, and that's the one I am. It is about the sound. I love sound, and not just the sound of recorded music. I love sound everywhere. I absolutely do. I mean, I was obsessed with it when I was a little kid with my transistor radio at my ear. I mean, I would actually mistune the radio station to hear the static, the noise between the stations, because that just tickled me in some way. I was like, I just love that sound. And I would spend hours listening to distortion and static and all kinds of crap between stations. And then I'd get a little closer to the station. I'd start to hear the music creeping through underneath the distortion. And I liked that a lot. Oh yeah. So I was obsessed with sound. So anyway, I want to go back to audio and point out that when you're listening to make this simpler, digital audio to a DAC in a system, right? That signal from the DAC to a preamplifier to a power amplifier, that signal, that recording is as perfect as it's ever going to be. And the second it enters the speaker's input terminals and goes through the crossover, it takes a huge nosedive in quality. The losses are gigantic. And certainly when it reaches the drivers, the woofer, mid-range tweeter, of whatever type they are, more losses of fidelity, of signal. And I don't care what kind of speaker it is, whether it's a horn speaker or an electrostatic speaker, a box speaker, an open baffle speaker. Yes, it's tremendous how we're asking a diaphragm to reproduce that sound, a moving cone, a moving dome, a membrane of some sort to reproduce the sound of life, of music. That's impossible that diaphragm could do that. It's just not going to happen. And then, of course, once it leaves the speaker and is in your room, well, more losses, way more losses occur. Perfection isn't the goal, in my humble opinion. That's not the goal. The goal is greater connection, and that greater connection is doable through different kinds of speakers. If you've only lived with box speakers, direct radiating box speakers, and you've never lived with a horn speaker, you've never lived with an open baffle speaker or an electrostatic speaker, you are missing another dimension in the sound of reproduced music in your listening room. So getting back to the job at hand there, I am a reviewer, and I got to say, I do make it my business when a review first posts to read the comments. And I've always done that. And when I see people talking about, well, perfect, that this isn't perfect or that's not perfect, well, yeah, none of them are perfect. That's the theme of the show today, right? They're all very imperfect. They're all failing at their job, but that doesn't matter. All that matters really is that you, each of you, find the right one, the right system, but certainly the right speaker that suits you, that gives you what you need. And thinking that you need a better one and a better one and a better one that's getting you what? Getting you, where is that better thing taking you? I don't know. I don't know that that's the right approach. Or I do know, or I do think that that is not the right approach. That the question is, what do you want? Can you put it into words? Because it is important that if you can describe to yourself what it is that you want, and not just more bass or more loudness or more better soundstage or something. No, in musical terms, what do you want out of the sound of your recorded music? I know it's not an easy thing to describe sound with words, though that's what I try to do every day, but I want you to try, because the closer you get to figuring out what it is you want from your next set of speakers, the more likely it is that you'll buy the right ones. Because they're all different. All the speaker designers I've ever met, they're all shooting for different goals, you know. They just are. And it's your job as a consumer to search out what's out there the best you can, hopefully by an actual audition with your own ears, but to find the one that lines up with what you want. You know, I mean, some people really are hung up on bass. And if bass is what you want, well, it's not just how much bass there is, it's how it works in your room, how clear the bass is, and how deep it goes and all that. But the, I don't know, what kind of bass is it? There's so many roads to go down with that. And as I've continued my life as a reviewer, I keep hearing how bass, like open baffle bass, which is my current preoccupation, it has a quality of texture and detail and airiness that box speakers with ported bass or sealed box bass, that's a different thing. And for me, now that I've found open baffle bass kind of aligns better with what I want out of bass, I'm a happier camper on that regard, you know. But if it's imaging or sound staging or something, does that lead to stronger musical connection for you? It is all about you in the end of the day. It's your money, it's your system. You don't have to please me or your friends or anybody. You just have to find the one that works. And the more you can figure it out what it is that you're chasing, the more likely it is that you'll get closer to that goal. Now this next part, I'm speaking to you as a reviewer. I don't care what the review says, mine or otherwise. If the speaker isn't really going to be a good fit for you, for your room, for your placement requirements, or the kind of electronics you're using, well then it doesn't matter what the reviewer says. If we're too far apart on that score, then whatever the conclusions of the reviewer it doesn't mean anything if it's not going to fit in the context of your room. In other words, if you need a big room or a small room in terms of how close or far the speakers are going to be from the wall, the kind of electronics you use, etc., etc., that's all part of the recipe to get there, to get the best possible sound for yourself. And also, I just want you to understand, I think of my reviews and other audio reviewers, what they're producing is first and foremost entertainment, followed by information. But it's not about nailing down all the parameters that you could then apply to your situation. I wish we could do that, but since we don't know what your situation is, we really can't do that. So whatever hints you can glean from a review on YouTube or in print, you have to ask yourself when you read those wonderful reviews of a product, how well does it apply to you? From the information that you have from a given reviewer, how well does that apply to your situation, to your room, to your electronics, to your budget, etc., etc., etc. That's what really matters when it comes to reviews. And now let's move on to, you know it, you love it, the Audiophiliac viewer system of the day. Jim sent in these pictures, and I gotta say, he is definitely an advanced audiophile. The turntable, for example, is his own design, and most of the parts are CNC machined or 3D printed with a few off-the-shelf parts. The motor is a precision DC servo type. The tone arm is an SME5, and the cartridge is a Fidelity Research MCX3. The phono stage is a DIY project using the parts kit from the DIY Audio store. That's very cool right there, and it's designed by Wayne Coburn of Pass Labs. The line stage is a Nelson Pass design and is available through the PassDIY.com store. Power conditioning is handled by a Monster Cable HTS 2600. Power amplifier is a Mark Levinson number 23. The speakers are New Form Research. They are ribbon hybrids. So thank you, Jim. Okay, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg. I am the Audiophiliac. I want to thank you guys for being here watching the show all the way to the end. Thank you. And if you dig what I'm doing on the channel, I'd love you to consider joining my Patreon. You can do so just a couple of bucks a month, up to 50 or even 100. At the top two tiers, you and I will have a conversation one-on-one every month at the beginning of the month. And with that, I can say my work here is at last complete. Thank you again for watching. And yeah, I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.